beautiful exhibit at the Texas Memorial Museum at the University of Texas in Austin. And kind of like with the Panhandle Plains Museum, just, due to time, I'm only going to be able to show you the highlights. Unfortunately, there's quite a few here, so let's just get to blazing through them. We first start, of course, in Texas's well-known Permian. Here's a jaw of Dimetrodon, and there are some of its attributed turds. There's an interesting talk at SVP about this guy that says it was eating fish and amphibians rather than the other reptiles and other land reptiles that it lived with, like, for example, Edaphosaurus back there, long thought to be Dimetrodon's main entree. But, it's interesting work, especially with the evidence he has, but, I think more study is needed to determine if that was a usual dietary trend, or if it was situational, regional, who knows. There's a skull of Eriops, this big, amphibian, who is thought to have lived kind of like a crocodile, snatching anything it can grab with its mouth at the water's edge. And here's something pretty cool. Texas has a tooth whorl from the buzzsaw shark Helicoprion, which is pretty neat. Here's another little Permian amphibian, Cacops. And we jump immediately to the Triassic, which Texas also has good material from, like this thing, Trilophosaurus. Oh, now we come over to the more familiar faces of the Triassic, like the Aedosaur. You should remember a lot of this stuff from Petrified Forest. This one is called Longasuchus. Yeah, look at that armor and spine work. Here's some scoots. And the tooth from Phytosaurs. Here's a Paleorhinus. Here's a big old, rostrum part of jawbone. Given that size, it's got to be something like Rhodontosaurus or Retiodon, but they haven't been able to identify it just yet. And Angistrodorhinus. Sorry, stupid zoom button. And then finally over here, the Metaposaur Buettinaria. It's interesting about the Phytosaurs, though, is I thought those all got lumped in with each other. And, again, like the Metaposaur. No, wait, this is the Metaposaur. Like Eriops. I just thought this thing may have been something like a crocodile, even though Phytosaurs had that covered. Now we're in the Cretaceous period, the age of dinosaurs in Texas. Here's a partial pelvic bone from Alamosaurus. That was the huge sauropod at the Perot Museum. Though this is nowhere near as big as it. Although I think I remember reading about the remains of several juvenile Alamosaurus from Big Bend, so this could very well just be an immature animal. here is perhaps one of the best-known fossils from Texas. Originally named Chasmosaurus moriscolensis, it was given its own genus Agujaceratops. Very nice. Very nice skull they got. Fortunately, they have like a lot of casts and foreign stuff in their display. I'm of course into the local stuff. You know, I come to Texas, I want to see Texas. Luckily, they do have some, like this pelvis here and sacrum. You know, that's the section of the vertebral column that the pelvis anchors to. It's called Critosaurus, although the identity of that dinosaur has long been in question. Well, it doesn't matter what it is, it's still a Texas dinosaur. And of course, got some of Texas's wonderful dinosaur footprints, like that, and that. And then this sauropod footprint, probably from the Glen Rose Formation. Very famous for dinosaur tracks. And then here's a femur thigh bone from the giant late Cretaceous theropod Acrocanthosaurus. And finally, Tyrannosaurus is known from the Big Bend of Texas. However, no material has been found that can be definitively assigned to T-Rex. And, I mean, their website says at least that this jaw here has enough differences in it that it might not even be T-Rex. It might be some kind of new species found only in the South. More fossils are needed, but as I know of right now, no one's really looking. And it's good to see that this museum is at least, you know, kind of following my same train of thought that you don't necessarily have to, you know, recreate an entire environment or have these big elaborate dioramas or something to create an immersive experience. Because see right here, they're using lighting to kind of make it feel like we're down in the ocean. Good job. I mean, it just seems something so simple and yet so effective. Why isn't everyone else doing it? But anyway, this here's the Onion Creek mosasaur, found in Travis County. And he's a pretty big guy. You can see him extending all the way up there. This takes up the whole display. And then lots of various invertebrates, like they call these Texas toenail oysters. And then kind of back there you can see a plesiosaur. I always get confused when people say plesiosaur because it's a large group made up of two families. You have the elasmosaurids, which are the long-necked ones, and then you have the pliosaurs, which are the short-necked ones. Luckily the sign, you know, clarifies that this is an elasmosaurid. So you can kind of see back there, that's the, you know, the forelimbs, part of the back and ribs, and then a neck. And Onion Creek getting in the way again. I got lots of these sea stars, just beautifully preserved. And here's another plesiosaur. I believe this one's a pliosaurid. And I think that's supposed to be its neck. Because yeah, it almost looks like you have the pelvic girdle down there and the shoulder girdle up here, except they kind of do look the same. And here's another Pliosaurid. This one reconstructed, so you can see got the short neck. And you see this basically in most major museums, this rhino slab from Nebraska made up of the little twin-horned rhino rhinoceros. See, you can see the two bumps on the nose there, the two little horns. Alright, now we get into my favorite part, the Cenozoic here, and you can see there's this big jaw here from Amebelodon fricki, a shovel tusker, and I mean, you can look at this thing is at least as tall as I am, if not longer. It's huge. But what I'm most curious about is this guy, this thigh bone, because it says it's from Nathabelodon, not Nathabelodon SP, but Buckneri. I mean, they got this thing down to the species. But I thought Nathabelodon was only known from a single jawbone found in Nebraska. Many are saying, well, that's your fault for not keeping up with science. It's not easy. I mean, go punch Nathabelodon into Google Scholar, and you'll get absolutely nothing. I wonder if that's just because the papers haven't been digitized yet, or if it's evidence that, this thing, not a whole lot's been published about this animal. So, anyway, here's a Miocene turtle. Here's a giant tortoise. Because the Miocene was pretty warm. In fact, there's a period known as the Miocene thermal maximum. And so you had giant tortoises like this living in the United States as far north as Nebraska. And in fact, during a warm period during the Ice Age, during the Pleistocene, you even found these things up in Indiana. Anyway, yeah, some horses from elsewhere. Again, I'm interested in Texas. And there's the famous slingshot antelope. The skull's a cast. I believe that skull's in Berkeley now. But there's a horn from its ancestor, probable ancestor, Prosyntheticeras. Something I did not know Texas had. Eocene fossils. Because, I got this nice pantodon skull. Primitive large mammal. Got hell pig. You also have a bone-crushing dog. And look at that little Oreodont from the Texas Eocene. And, speaking of it being so warm, first, bear. Agriatherium, maybe thought it may have been more of a predator than modern bears. But anyway, speaking of warmer Texas, alligator. Well, actually, the alligator shows it wasn't only warm, but it was also wet, because alligators need lots of water to swim around in. Here's a foot bone from the giraffe-like camel, Lepicamelus. More from the Texas Eocene. You got this forelimb and skull from Menidus, a brontotherium, which died out at the end of the Eocene. And oh god, just look at that. That's a skull of Megatilopus, called Megatilopus, a giant camel, or as I sometimes call them, uber camels. The males of which could have been 12 feet tall, 9 feet at the shoulder, and the males fought with these canines that are almost the size of T-Rex teeth. Yay, Cenozoic. So then we come to the last part of the Cenozoic, the Pleistocene. Lots of good stuff here. Here's they call it Bison alaskensis, but, I kind of talked about my doubts about that at the Panhandle Plains Museum. Also, bunny rabbit. He has a pronghorn called Tetrameryx. Tetrameryx, of course, means 4 horns. That would be a text. Look, they got a black bear skull. That's pretty cool. And here's a Gomphothere skull. It's actually Cuvironeus, which is it's part of the Gomphothere family, but it looked more like a mastodon with spiraling tusks. Went extinct here. They call it Pleistocene, which I'm kind of curious about because I thought these... No, wait. Never mind. Because I know Cuvironeus is from the from the Pleistocene of Florida. And this was one of the guys who went down to South America and flourished. Got good old Colombian mammoth tusks and skull. Come around over this way. Here's a scimitar cat, Homotherium. This is probably the one from Freischenhang Cave, where they found what some think is a den site, because he had Homotherium, and he had 2 cubs. This one's about 2 to 3 months old, and this one's around 4 months old. And you can see there's the wee little beginning of his canines. Of course, got the Glyptodont. Cool guy. Basically the mammalian answer to ankylosaurs, except I'd say these things took it even further, because you can see it's just one big solid shell, like a walking fortress. Got the long-nosed peccary. You don't see this guy around as much as his contemporary Platygonus, the flat-headed peccary. Of course, can't be the Pleistocene without a ground sloth. You can't have paleontology without ground sloth. Sloths forever. Because, you got the standard Paramylodon here, who push 2 tons. And then down here you have truly giant ground sloth, Eurymetherium, which is known pretty much from the south, Texas through to Florida, up to North Carolina. This guy, this guy was pushing 2 tons. This guy was usually 5 tons. He'd stand up 12 feet tall. He's just huge. If we had gone to Houston, we would have seen a full skeleton, but we of course came here because they just have more Texas. Alright, we're now up in the Hall of Texas Wildlife. This is right here is a colored peccary, also called a javelina. Javelina is Spanish for spear, because unlike their cousins, the pigs, peccaries have these straight tusks, these straight canines. So while a pig or boar would try to slash you, this thing would just bite you. They can inflict nasty wounds. And we've got the Texas tortoise, and of course the 9-banded armadillo. Curious about this though, a coati. I guess maybe this thing sometimes comes up from Mexico. I don't know of any entrenched populations. We got skunk, prairie chicken. rock squirrel, and twakey. Wee bitty alligator. Now, I find weird there's this, a green anole. Pretty sure those are tropical lizards, but perhaps it's an invasive species because I know these are very common in pet shops. And who knows, because in the same display we have nutria, which I know is an invasive species. It's native to South America, was brought into North America and Cuba and lots of other places to try and promote a fur trade, and that they've basically become just a big pest. Possum, bear, and the almighty buffalo. These are probably among the only buffalo you'll find in Texas today. Because, it says the last verified record of wild bison in Texas was in Dallas County in 1889. So we move on to the Panhandle Plains. We see a jackrabbit, prairie dogs, coyote, cougar, a little burrowing owl, golden eagle, another collared peccary, porcupine, and a mule deer. And here are some reptiles, like the eastern collared lizard. Very pretty. And there's that thing you always see at the pet shop. Here's now kind of a small example of one of the infamous venomous snakes of the South, the cottonmouth. Here's the hognose snake, which is famous not for its mild toxin, but because rather than bite, it seems to only want to bite prey. It'll instead put on kind of a threat display, and if that doesn't work, he will roll over and play dead. Timber rattlesnake, indigo snake. And here's another of the infamous, there's a coral snake. But here's another of the infamous venomous snakes, copperhead. And then finally over here we have the bull snake. Now over in California and many other places they are known as gopher snakes, but out here in the Midwest they're known as bull snakes because they get huge. I actually did find a gopher snake almost to this big. Certainly as long, but maybe a bit skinnier, up at my cousin's place one time. Here's kind of an interesting place, the fish room. This is a bluegill catfish. No, not a bluegill catfish, just a blue catfish. Just a blue catfish. It's, again, freaking huge. And it just kind of goes around the various regions of Texas. There's, specimens in jars. Here's a largemouth bass. Here's a crappie. When we went to Sequoia National Park when I was a kid, I was mad because my sister caught 5 rainbow trout, and all I caught was a crappie. My dad disagrees because he thinks the crappie tasted the best. So, huzzah? This ain't like going down to the pond fishing for bluegills and tommycots. That catfish, swallow you whole. Sorry for the out of focus. In case you couldn't tell, that was a Quinn impression. And so we got the more specimens. There's a little eel skeleton. Another crappie. Then here we get to East Texas and the Gulf. Swamps are well known for gar, which have been around since the dinosaurs. There's a needle-nosed gar. Got the weirdo little paddlefish. We got the predatory bowfin, and here we go. You know, they say everything is bigger in Texas. Well, here's evidence number 13, the alligator gar. These things can grow up to 10 feet long, and I can't remember how much they weigh, but they are just huge. And you can see they got that mouthful of razor sharp teeth, kind of like an alligator. That's how they got the name. But they're also covered in a kind of armor. See, their body is coated in these bony scales. And you have to be careful when handling these fish, because if those, if the fish flexes its skin and those separate, they can actually cut you. So, spotted stream trout, sea trout. Come on, focus. There you go. I want to suck your blood. And then finally we're here in birdie land, like scaled quail, the roadrunner. You've seen here about to eat a Texas spiny lizard. And ducks. This wonderful diorama. Don't know why it's in the bird section. Probably because this was the only place with space. But you see, I'd love to see more of this kind of diorama here. Not just like animals in their natural environment, but you can see kind of interacting with each other almost. You know, because a cougar is nabbed a deer, and these coyotes are hoping to pick off a free lunch. Even though, even with the numbers, the cougar could probably still fight them off, because it's a freaking cougar. Now, this display, you have lots of these coastal birds from Texas's Gulf Coast, down in the southeast. You know, and they give them all their labels and descriptions. However, that leaves open one pressing question. Who the hell is this? It's not a jacana, is it? I know that's not a coastal bird. They live in wetlands because those wide feet help them walk on lily pads. Probably not a jacana. I don't know my birds that well. It's like I know of a jacana, but you know, I don't know exactly how to say, yeah, that's a jacana. Because look at that. Yeah, some birds have these, you know, vestigial little claws on their wings. Because birds are dinosaurs, and because they have the little claws, that make them dinosaurs. Whatever. I think I've already told you that, you know, feathers didn't ruin dinosaurs for me, but I kind of feel like dinosaurs ruined birds for me. I mean, birds can't be awesome on their own. And also because I'll never be rid of dinosaurs. Because every time it's like, well, mammals are alive today, well, dinosaurs went extinct. No, birds are dinosaurs. Dinosaurs live today. I don't get it. But anyway, so who is this guy and what's he doing here? And yeah, well, the battery's about to die, so have to wrap this up. Because yeah, they just have a little thing here on insects. You know, those icky swattable things. All right, so I'll talk to you guys later.